You're being watched right now. No, I'm not talking about conspiracy theories or cheap paranoia. I'm talking about something far more subtle, far deeper. Something Michel Foucault discovered while studying a prison that was never built. A prison where the prisoners guard themselves. And the most disturbing part? You live in it every single day without realizing it. You know that moment when you automatically adjust your behavior when entering a store, even without seeing any cameras. Or when you delete that message before sending it, not because someone is watching, but because someone could be. That's the power of the modern panopticon. The genius isn't in being watched all the time. It's in never knowing when we're being watched. And that changes absolutely everything. Foucault wasn't just interested in prisons when he wrote Discipline and Punish. He was unveiling the invisible architecture of social control. An architecture that transformed schools into normalization, factories, hospitals into docility laboratories, and your mind into your own jailer. The question isn't whether you're being watched. The question is, when was the last time you acted like you weren't? Think about your day, from the moment you wake up and grab your phone to when you go to sleep, checking notifications one last time. How many times did you perform? How many times did you choose the right photo, the right word, the right emoji? Not because someone told you to, but because you've internalized that there might always be someone watching, judging, categorizing. The original panopticon was an architectural idea by Jeremy Bentham. A central tower surrounded by cells in a circle. The guard could see all prisoners, but they never knew when they were being observed. The result? The prisoners began behaving as if they were being watched 24 hours a day. They became their own guards. Now look around you. Security cameras, browsing history, geolocation, facial recognition, algorithms that know more about your desires than you do. But the real power isn't in the technology. It's in what it did to your mind. You've become the guard of your own cell. And the most ironic part? You call this freedom. If you've made it this far, something resonated. Maybe it's time to question the invisible bars. Subscribe, like, but most importantly, stay until the end. Because what comes next might change how you see every camera, every like, every moment of self-censorship. The most efficient prison is the one the prisoner doesn't want to leave. And maybe, just maybe, you're about to notice the keys that were always in your hands. Society sold you a beautiful lie. You're free because you can choose between 40 different types of cereal. You're empowered because you can post whatever you want online. You're liberated because you can work from anywhere, anytime. But Foucault saw through this illusion decades before Instagram existed. He understood that modern power doesn't oppress through chains and whips. It liberates you into your own cage. Remember when you were a child and adults told you that you could be anything you wanted, that democracy meant freedom, that technology would set you free? These weren't lies exactly. They were myths designed to make you love your surveillance. Because a prisoner who believes they're free will never try to escape. They'll defend their prison. They'll upgrade it. They'll pay monthly subscriptions for better bars. The myth goes deeper. You've been taught that visibility equals success, that transparency equals honesty, that sharing equals connection. Every motivational speaker, every social media guru, every productivity expert reinforces the same message. Put yourself out there, be seen, document everything. But Foucault understood something they don't tell you. In a society of surveillance, visibility is a trap. Think about how you've been trained. Since school, you learned to sit in rows, raise your hand, wait for permission. You learned that good. Behavior gets rewarded and bad behavior gets punished. But most importantly, you learned to monitor yourself, to ask, what will they think? Before, what do I think? You learned to perform normalcy so well that you forgot it was a performance. D. Cultural myth insists that surveillance is for your safety. Cameras prevent crime. Data collection improves services, tracking helps efficiency, and you believed it because the alternative seemed like chaos. But Foucault revealed the real purpose. It's not about stopping crime or improving anything. It's about creating docile bodies, predictable minds, manageable populations. Every time you self-censor a post, every time you curate your image, every time you wonder if your search history looks suspicious, you're not exercising freedom. You're demonstrating how well the system worked. You're proving that external surveillance successfully transformed into internal discipline. The guards can go home. The prisoners are watching themselves. The most insidious part, you participate willingly. You upload your life. You tag your location. You quantify your steps, your sleep, your heart rate. You've become both the observer and the observed, the guard and the prisoner, the experimenter and the experiment. And you do it all in the name of self-improvement, connection, safety, the very things the PANOPTICON promised to deliver. But what if the real prison isn't the cameras or the algorithms? What if it's the belief that you need to be watched to be good, that you need to be seen to be real, that you need approval to be worthy? What if the myth itself is the cage? The bars of your cage are made of habits you never questioned. Every morning, you wake up and immediately check how many people validated your existence while you slept. Hearts, thumbs up, comments, digital breadcrumbs that tell you you matter. But Foucault would ask, when did you start needing permission to exist? Your invisible prison has no walls, yet you can't leave. It's built from normalized behaviors so deeply embedded that they feel like breathing. You announce where you are. You document what you eat. You share your thoughts before you've even finished thinking them, not because anyone forces you, but because not doing so feels like disappearing. In the PANOPTICON, invisibility feels like death. Watch yourself tomorrow. Notice how you straighten your posture when passing a security camera, how you rehearse conversations before making a phone call, knowing it could be recorded, how you craft emails with the assumption they'll be forwarded. You're not paranoid. You're perfectly adapted to a world where everything is potential evidence, where every moment is a future judgment waiting to happen. The architecture of your prison is everywhere and nowhere. It's in the open office where everyone can see your screen. It's in the fitness tracker that counts your steps and judges your heart rate. It's in the smart home that learns your patterns and reports your anomalies. It's in the algorithm that knows you're depressed before you do. The prison evolved. It doesn't need walls when it has Wi-Fi. But here's what Foucault understood that makes your spine chill. The real prison is your internalized gaze. You've developed a split consciousness. One part lives while the other watches the living. One part feels while the other evaluates the feeling. You've become a walking surveillance system, constantly monitoring your own thoughts for acceptability, your own desires for normalcy, your own dreams for marketability. Think about the last time you did something without documenting it. The last time you had a thought without wondering how it would sound out loud. The last time you felt an emotion without immediately categorizing it. Can you even remember? This self-surveillance runs so deep that you mistake it for self-awareness. But awareness and surveillance are not the same thing. One liberates, the other imprisons. The invisible prison is perfect because it requires no maintenance, no guards to pay, no walls to build, just subjects who police themselves more efficiently than any external force ever could. You regulate your own behavior, moderate your own thoughts, censor your own expression, and you do it all while believing you're being authentic. Every notification is a bar, every metric is a chain, every comparison is a guard, and the most twisted part, the prison offers rewards. Dopamine hits for good behavior, social validation for compliance, the comfort of fitting in, the safety of being normal. The prison doesn't just contain you. It comforts you, it defines you, it becomes you. Michel Foucault didn't just study power, He dissected it like a surgeon examining a cancer that had metastasized through every institution of modern life. In Discipline and Punish, he revealed how the panopticon wasn't just a building design. It was a diagram of power that replicated itself everywhere: schools, hospitals, factories, and eventually inside your own mind. Foucault saw what others missed. Power in the modern world doesn't announce itself with trumpets and declarations. It whispers through procedures, protocols, and best practices. It doesn't force you to obey. It makes you want to obey. It doesn't break your will. It shapes your will. As he wrote, the perfect disciplinary apparatus would make it possible for a single gaze to see everything constantly. But he understood the real genius. Eventually, you become that gaze. In the history of sexuality, Foucault went deeper. He showed how even our most intimate desires are shaped by power. You think your sexuality is natural, personal, private, but Foucault revealed how it's actually a site of intense surveillance and control. From the confession booth, to the therapist's couch, to the dating app algorithm, someone is always categorizing, pathologizing, normalizing your desires. You learn to monitor your own sexuality, to confess it, to optimize it. Even pleasure becomes a form of discipline. The revelation that shattered conventional thinking was this: power is productive, not just repressive. It doesn't just say no. It creates entire categories of yes. It produces knowledge, discourse, bodies, and subjectivities. It doesn't silence you. It incites you to speak, to confess, to share, to expose yourself. And in that exposure, you become governable. Foucault called this biopower, the management of bodies and populations. But unlike previous forms of power that threaten death, biopower administers life. It tells you how to be healthy, how to be productive, how to be happy. It counts your calories, measures your productivity, optimizes your sleep. It doesn't threaten to kill you. It threatens to let you die if you don't comply with its vision of life. The most profound insight was about resistance. Foucault didn't believe in some authentic self waiting to be liberated beneath the layers of social control. He understood that we are constituted by power relations. But here's the radical part. Wherever there is power, there is resistance. Not resistance from outside the system, but resistance that uses the very mechanisms of power against itself. Where there is power, there is resistance, he wrote. But this resistance isn't about finding some pure space outside of surveillance. It's about recognizing how you've been constructed and choosing to construct yourself differently. It's about understanding that if power is productive, then you can produce yourself otherwise. The panopticon only works if you agree to be the kind of subject it needs. Foucault wasn't offering escape. He was offering something more dangerous: the knowledge that the prison requires your participation. And what you help construct, you can help deconstruct. Not through revolution, but through what he called practices of the self, the daily work of refusing to be who power needs you to be. This is the moment where it hits you. You're not who you think you are. You're who the system trained you to think you are. Every personality trait you're proud of, every preference you consider unique, every choice you believe is yours, all of it might be the product of invisible conditioning. And the worst part? You can't tell where you end and the programming begins. Feel that discomfort? That's your trained self fighting your real self. The trained self says, I freely chose my career, my lifestyle, my beliefs. But did you? Or did you choose from a menu of pre-approved options? Did you pursue your dreams, or did you pursue what you were taught to dream? When you scroll through social media feeling inadequate, is that your authentic response? Or is that exactly how you were programmed to feel? You're having two reactions right now. Part of you is dismissing this as overthinking, as paranoid philosophy that doesn't apply to your real life. That's your trained self protecting itself. It needs you to believe the prison doesn't exist. Because if you truly understood how deep the conditioning goes, you might do something dangerous. You might change. The other part, the part that brought you this far, is recognizing something you've always suspected, that your anxiety isn't a personal failing, it's a feature of the system, that your constant self-improvement isn't growth, it's compliance, that your fear of missing out isn't natural, it's manufactured, you're not broken, you're functioning exactly as designed. Here's what's really terrifying, even your rebellion is anticipated. Your cynicism about social media while still using it. Your critique of capitalism while optimizing your productivity. Your awareness of surveillance while live streaming your life. The system doesn't fear your awareness. It commodifies it. It turns your resistance into content, your awakening into a brand. So you face a choice that isn't really a choice. You can't unsee the panopticon now. You can't pretend your self-monitoring is self-care. You can't unknow that your mind has been colonized, but you also can't simply step outside of it. There is no outside. Foucault knew this. The panopticon isn't a place you can leave. It's a condition you navigate. The real crisis isn't discovering you're in a prison. It's discovering that you are the prison. Every time you judge yourself through imagined eyes, you rebuild the walls. Every time you perform instead of live, you strengthen the bars. Every time you ask, is this normal? Instead of, is this true? You prove the panopticon's success. You want me to tell you how to escape. But that's the trained self talking always. Seeking the next solution, the next improvement, the next optimization. What if the answer isn't escape, but recognition? What if freedom isn't about leaving the panopticon, but about choosing how to exist within it? What if resistance means refusing to be the subject it needs, even while remaining subject to it? The crisis is real. You are simultaneously the prisoner, the guard, and the prison itself. Now, what are you going to do with that knowledge? So here you are, aware of the cage, but still inside it. And maybe that's exactly where the real work begins. Foucault didn't promise liberation through enlightenment. He offered something more powerful, the ability to see the strings that move you. And when you see them, you can start to pull them yourself. Tomorrow, you'll still wake up in the panopticon. You'll still have cameras watching, algorithms predicting, metrics measuring. But something will be different. You'll notice the moment before you perform. That split second where you choose between what you feel and what you think you should feel. That's your point of resistance. Not a grand revolution, but 1,000 tiny refusals to be exactly what the system expects. Start small. Post something without checking the likes. Have a conversation without documenting it. Feel an emotion without categorizing it. Think a thought without wondering if it's acceptable. These aren't acts of rebellion, they're acts of existence. They're you choosing to be a person instead of a profile, a human instead of a data point. The panopticon's power comes from your belief that you must be watched to be good. But what if you're already good? What if you don't need surveillance to be ethical? What if you don't need metrics to be valuable? What if you don't need approval to be real? These aren't just philosophical questions. They're cracks in the prison walls. Foucault understood that power shapes subjects, but subjects can reshape themselves. Every time you choose authenticity over performance, you're exercising what he called technologies of the self. You're not escaping power, that's impossible. You're redirecting it. You're using the very mechanisms of subjectification to become something unexpected, something unmanageable, something free. The most radical act in a surveillance society isn't hiding. It's refusing to perform even when you're being watched. It's being mundane when you're supposed to be optimal. It's being complex when you're supposed to be branded. It's being human when you're supposed to be content. You came here looking for answers, but Foucault would tell you the question is more important. Keep asking why you do what you do. Keep questioning what feels natural. Keep noticing when you're watching yourself, because every moment of awareness is a moment of choice, and every choice is a chance to be something other than what power expects. If this burned something inside you, don't let it fade. Share this with someone who's still sleeping, someone who thinks their anxiety is personal, their performance is natural, their surveillance is safety. But more than that, share it because the Panopticon fears one thing above all: people who see it clearly and choose to live differently anyway. The keys were always in your hands. You just thought they were chains. Subscribe not to be watched, but to remember you're watching. Follow not to be validated, but to validate your own resistance. And tomorrow, when you feel the invisible eyes upon you, remember, you don't have to perform. You already exist, and that's the most dangerous thing. You can be in a world that needs you to doubt it.